Ba-da-ba-bum-bum-bum.
Bum. Welcome to Vamp Chat with Dan and Eva, the podcast devoted to vampire fiction, fang folklore, and the Gothic imagination. I'm Eva Vertreese, author of the Fury trilogy. Book 1, A Fury, and now Book 2, A Hellish Fury, is also available.
And I'm Dan Clefstad, author of Fiona's Guardians and its brand new sequel, Sins of the Sire.
Dan and I have another action-packed show for you. But first, we want to tell you that the Dan and Eva book tour will again be venturing outside our home state of Kentucky with a sojourn further south.
Yes, Eva and I have been invited by bookseller Lindsay Schultz to do an author signing at the Spine Bookshop in Smyrna, Tennessee, a little outside Nashville. In addition to the signing, we will also stream a special off-schedule Vamp Chat live from the Spine starting at 1 p.m. Central Time on Saturday, October 3rd.
You know, it's funny. I mean, we put out a call to Middle Tennessee authors of Vampire Tales to interview, and no one got back to us. And the only thing I can figure is maybe Tennessee vampire authors stay in their coffins. Maybe. I don't know. But all is not lost. We had an author who lives in Indianapolis, actually further north than we are, want to be on the show. And she's making the longer journey south to join us.
That's right. K.A. Schultz is a horror author who also writes vampire stories and poetry. And our second guest for that show on October 3rd will be bookstore owner Lindsay Schultz. No relation. She is, by the way, a huge vampire fan. We would
Girl
also
after
welcome.
my own heart.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We would also welcome any Tennessee vampire authors to stop in, come out of your coffins, and join us.
Yes. Join us Saturday, October 3rd at 1 p.m. Central for this special event. Come see us live or watch it on our Facebook page or YouTube channel. Can't even talk this tonight. God. Okay, Dan and I have been captivated by a brand new book surrounding an 1819 story called The Black Vampyre. This book was edited by our close friend Brian Forrest, host of the Toothpickings channel on YouTube. Brian has been on the show before because he's also the foremost expert on the 1972 film Blackula. We are super excited to have him back on the show. Again, Brian Forrest, welcome back to Vamp Chat.
Thanks,
Hey.
Eva and Dan. It's great to be here again.
Well, it's great
Love
to see
seeing
you
you guys.
again. Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
We're super excited to have you on.
Well,
Because
I'm
this book
excited
is
to
awesome.
talk about this.
Yeah, the book is awesome. Your presentation of it is also just amazing. So, Brian, The Black Vampyre by Uriah Derick D'Arcy is a first on many levels. It is the first vampire story by a Black author, the first by an American author, the first sort of comedic vampire tale, the first to include a mulatto or mixed race vampire, and it may well be the first anti-slavery story. Now, incredibly, Eva and I didn't know about this book until you brought it to our attention. So how did it come to your attention?
That's a good question. Around 2018, the book started to, the novella, it's not a book, it's novella, started to get a lot more attention. I believe it was 2012 that Andrew Barger included it in one of his collections of early vampire fiction. And I think he might be the one who could be credited with first unearthing it. But it really started to get more attention in scholarly circles around 2018. People started saying, hey, this book is hitting its 200-year birthday very soon. Have we talked about it? And it was a first for me, and it was a first for, I think, a lot of other people. I think that for some reason, it fascinated me far more than everybody else. I couldn't stop rereading it and thinking about it and wanting to discuss it. And I think that has a little more to do with my propensity to be obsessed over the first markings of different pieces of vampire fiction. And because this novella hit so many firsts, I think I just became obsessed with it over a few years. And then this year I was like, you know what, it's finally time to do something with all these little rabbit holes I've gone down on the internet and in archives, trying to learn a little something more about what this story was all about, what it was supposed to mean, and who the hell wrote it.
You know, you have a theme, kind of jumping off I'll get to my question in a second, but you kind of have this theme for uh, things that have a lot of firsts.
Guilty, yes. I do. For some reason, yes, I do. And in fact, I think that's how I came to become really obsessed with Blackula, because like everybody, I thought that Blackula was the first black vampire to ever be presented in entertainment. That was not correct, but that's certainly what got me into that movie initially. There's plenty of other firsts that the
Yeah.
movie did, so I feel like
We'll
that
get
was
into
time well
some of
spent.
those.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah.
we'll get into some of those. But okay. So this seems a good time to give our audience a bit of a synopsis. So the story opens with a Mr. Anthony Gibbons recalling his family history, in which his ancestors left the African country of Guinea on a French ship which arrived at Saint Domingo, or modern day Haiti. There, the passengers were sold into slavery. All died shortly after, except a small boy who was sold to a Mr. Persone. Why is this history important to the story?
I think that the author wanted to put slavery in the face of the reader and make sure that the readers, who his target audience was people in New England, maybe who saw one or two slaves in their life, he wanted to make sure that the horrors that are endured by enslaved people were not forgotten. And I'll even compare it to Blackula in this way. Blackula does start with reminding us about that history and then completely forgets about it. The Black Vampire does not. You are constantly reminded of it. It bookends the tale with a concern over slavery.
Yeah. So, continuing with the synopsis, Mr. Persone determines the boy is sickly and not suitable for work. So he kills him and throws him into the sea. But the body washes ashore and rises in the moonlight. Mr. Persone tries to kill the boy again, this time burning him on a pyre. Instead, the boy flings his owner onto the pyre, severely burning him. Mr. Persone regains consciousness in his own bed, wrapped in bandages. He calls out for his wife and infant son, and she informs him that there was nothing left of their son but his skin, hair, and nails. Now, after hearing of his son's death, Mr. Persone also dies. So we have what appears to be also a child vampire who dies. Is this also a first?
This would be our first child vampire. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
If we believe that our main character is a converted vampire at that point, I think that is the case. Although there's no blood drinking, there's no vampiric things happening, but the fact that Persone is not able to kill him tells me that this is a kid who is infected with vampirism.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So skipping ahead many years, the wife, Euphemia.
I say Euphemia.
Euphemia.
That's how I pronounce it in my head. Let's go with that.
Now a widow. She's approached by a Moorish or North African character called the Prince, who is accompanied by a European boy named Zembo. And Euphemia is charmed by the Prince and, hilariously enough, quickly marries him. I was like, man, I thought weddings happened fast in Kentucky. But after the wedding at midnight, the prince takes Euphemia to her family graveyard. They dig up her son's grave, and the prince uses the blood from her son's heart to fill a golden goblet, which he then forces Euphemia to drink from. Euphemia faints, and she wakes up in her former husband's grave, only to find out that she has become a vampire. This is a trope I've never heard of, so I want to break this down. I mean, would there even be blood to drink? I thought, there was nothing left but hair, skin, and nails.
This is definitely a different take on vampires than we're used to. And you have to remember that this was so early in the history of vampire fiction that there was not an established vampire cliche or trope yet. We didn't know what the archetype was for a vampire. That wouldn't really come until Dracula. So D'Arcy here is experimenting with, well, how does a vampire make a new vampire? Maybe it's like this. The only other vampire prose to come out before this was Polidori's Vampire, and that doesn't explore the idea of how new vampires are made at all. So D'Arcy's kind of on the leading edge of this idea of a vampire making new vampires. In fact, outside of certainly in prose, this is the first time we see a vampire making new vampires.
So another first.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Easy to do when you're this early, but yes, definitely a first.
Yeah. So the author, Uriah Derick D'Arcy, is experimenting, but he does have lore to draw on. How much of what he puts on the page comes from either African or European folklore?
I would say zero of it comes from African folklore. I'm almost positive D'Arcy was a white man in New England. Probably did not know a whole lot. He knew enough to talk about Obeah, which is the folk religion that was sort of a hybrid of African folk practices and Catholicism. It would almost seem the same as voodoo to you and me, but it would be as different as Catholicism and Protestantism. So to answer your question, yes, he is drawing on some European folklore. There's a staking that happens. This is the first staking in vampire prose fiction. So stakes do kill vampires here, which would be something that he would have drawn on from European folklore and the writings about those folkloric practices. The drinking of the blood is a part of that. They don't go into things, some of the crazier ones you hear about. Garlic is not present here. There's none of the whole thing about throwing stones or seeds on the ground, nothing like that. Nothing about mirrors. That won't come around until Bram Stoker gets a hold of it almost a century later, 80 years or so later.
Yeah.
So yes, there is some that he is drawing on, but he's also experimenting a little bit. He's trying a few new things, like the fact that a vampire can be created from a corpse that's been in the ground for years and years and years.
Yeah.
Like the fact that a vampire can eat a corpse that's been in the ground for years and sustain themselves. They don't need to eat someone living. Things like that.
Well, as you said, the Black Vampyre was published just months after the first English language vampire story, The Vampire by John Polidori. So initially the book credited Polidori's frenemy, let's call it Lord Byron, as the author. And this led to Polidori's depression and later suicide. In what ways do you think the Black Vampyre was responsible? What was a response to Polidori's book?
Oh, 100% a response. And it's really clear when you read the extra writings that bookend the narrative. So for those unfamiliar, the Black Vampyre part of the Black Vampyre is only about a little more than half of the pages. The rest of it is D'Arcy's complaint over plagiarism and American authors not being able to have a chance because cheap European books are flooding the market. And he draws an analogy between Polidori and Lord Byron. At the time the Black Vampyre came out, it was beginning to become understood that Lord Byron did not actually write The Vampire. But I think there was enough people who still may have been laboring under that that D'Arcy was kind of playing with that gray area. Like, who really wrote this book? Who's taking credit for it? Which one of these men is really the vampire here? The one who wrote the book, the one who's taking credit for the book? Which one? So I think that he is trying to make an analogy. He's trying to force the Black Vampyre, the narrative, to be an analogy for this larger dispute over who gets credit. We wouldn't have had the term intellectual property back then, but basically, whose IP belongs to who.
Right, yeah. So in your introduction to the Black Vampyre, you note that American literature at the time was dominated by a group of writers called the Knickerbocker Group. They included legendary authors such as Washington Irving and James Fenimore Cooper. But you write that D'Arcy called this group vampires. Why did he say that?
Well, it's hard to know if D'Arcy really disliked this group, or if he was being self-critical because he was a part of the group. That depends on who you think D'Arcy really was. Uriah Derick D'Arcy is definitely a pen name. The two people who get mentioned as being his actual identity the most are Robert Sands, who was a member of the Knickerbocker group, and it would have been on brand for him to self-criticize or make fun of his own group of writers. Or it may have been a Reverend Richard Varick Day. That is Katie Bray's idea of who may have actually been Uriah Derick D'Arcy. He would have been outside of that group and perhaps had a bone to pick with them. Not knowing definitively who D'Arcy was makes that a little hard to figure out what his motives were. But I suspect he was known to that group. They must have all known each other, whoever Uriah Derick D'Arcy actually was.
Okay.
So there are significant themes running through the Black Vampire that caught my eye, and one of them is the actor idea of mixing. So whether it involves blood, race, religion, can you take us through each of these sub-themes?
You could probably do it better than me because you've probably given it more thought than I have, but you're right. There's racial mixing. This is our first time we have an interracial marriage in American literature. It is also the way vampires are created. There's a mixing of blood and soil. Unlike what we're usually used to, vampire bites or an exchange of blood. In order to become a vampire, not only do you drink blood, but you also have to drink this soil. I guess that would be a borrowing of the idea of native soil. And then, of course, there is the mixing of religions going on. And finally, there is a mixing between vampires and enslaved people. Towards the end of the book, we learn that there are other vampires on Haiti, and we don't learn their names or much about them, but there are others around there, and they are working with enslaved people in secret to try to foment a revolution. And I'm probably missing a couple. Eva, are there other mixings that you caught that I missed?
You covered the waterfront, I think.
I was gonna say, I think I got the bigger ones, but there probably are others. Yeah.
Well, sticking with the theme of slavery, the hero or anti-hero is a black vampire who was brought to America as a slave. So we have a clear metaphor of the slave trade and capitalist exploitation sucking the lifeblood from enslaved Americans. But you also write that the Black Vampire is not a full-on critique of slavery. There's some ambivalence there. Tell us more about that.
Well, this was when I first started reading the story, it was the biggest question I had, which is this really anti-slavery? Because there were certainly parts of it that seemed like, well, if you wanted to tell an anti-slavery story with vampires, why would you make the vampires the slaves? Vampires are the ones that take things from others, take life force, take abilities from others. That would be the slave owner or the slave master, or at very least the slave trader, not the slave themselves. So that didn't make a lot of sense to me. It also didn't make a whole lot of sense to me that this story is set in Haiti, the only place where there had been a fully successful, or at least I should say the most successful slave revolt in history, and yet the revolt is quashed at the end of the book. And that leaves us with two problems. Either it's wish fulfillment that slavery was never abolished in Haiti, or let's say it had gone the other way and we had an ending where the revolt was successful. Well, now you have monsters leading that revolt. And are you trying to make a comment about the slave revolt by saying that, well, blood-sucking monsters are the parties responsible for a successful slave revolution in Haiti? That doesn't seem like a very even-keeled approach either. So it was difficult for me to finally reach the conclusion that, no, I think this is probably on the side of abolition. It's just not executed all that well.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so when published in 1819, The Black Vampire was attributed to Uriah Derick D'Arcy, which was known as a pseudonym at the time. Then in 1845, the book was reprinted by the Knickerbocker magazine, which attributed the works to Robert C. Sands. This is only the beginning of the confusion that follows.
Right.
Who do you think is the actual author?
Well, I will reserve judgment on that, but let's talk through a couple of those things. So there's no indication in 1819 as to who the actual author is. I think it's reasonable to think that people at the time in the literary circles of New York probably knew who Uriah Derick D'Arcy really was, and they weren't bothered by that at all. But in 1845, the Knickerbocker magazine publishes a part of the Black Vampyre. And they say that this was something that Robert Sands had written many years ago. They do not for a moment say Robert Sands wrote it under a pseudonym. They do not even address the name Uriah Derick D'Arcy at all. They reprint it as though Robert Sands' name had always been on it. Now, here's our problem. In my edited volume, I reprinted several reviews of the Black Vampyre that had come out in 1819. One of those is by Robert Sands. So you either have to think that Robert Sands, writing under a pseudonym in both cases, was reviewing his own work and giving himself a really good review, or
what a great idea!
Why didn't I think of that?
And at that time, journalistic ethics were a little more shaky. It wouldn't have been that big of a deal for him to do that. But that's possible. Either you think, oh, he would never do that, so he can't be the author, or you could say, oh, he definitely did that because he was reviewing his own work positively. It's Katie Bray in I want to say the 2010s, who maybe the late 2010s, who identified Richard Varick Day as being the author.
Okay.
I'm not getting on her case because her papers were more about the content, but she doesn't show her work on how she concluded that Richard Varick Day was the author. And that's not an accusation of her, because that wasn't her point. It was kind of a side thing. But Richard Varick Day would have been in the seminary at the time that the book was published, which would be a good reason to maybe use a pseudonym if you are studying to be a minister.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he was a prolific author, just like Robert Sands was. They both could write in this very flowery language. They were both capable of writing this book, but they weren't the only ones who were capable of writing it. I don't know that anyone's really investigated these two guys called the Croakers. Joseph Rodman Drake and Fitz Green Halbeck were like a team of writers who were also in the Knickerbocker group. I found it interesting that D'Arcy stopped publishing anything in 1820, and that was the same year that Joseph Rodman Drake died.
Oh.
So is there something to that? I don't know. There was a Knickerbocker named Lydia Maria Child, who would be a fascinating candidate. She was definitely an abolitionist. And like Mary Shelley before her, she may have been writing under a pseudonym. Unfortunately, she wasn't living in New York City at that time. She would have been about 17, which does not preclude her. There's been other teenage authors who've published lots of great works. But the fact that she would have been living out of state at that time may have made it more difficult to get her work into New York journals. So
would she have known about Haiti at that age?
She seems to have been very well educated by herself. She was not able to go to college, but she opened a school for girls in 1818 or 1820.
Okay.
And she was a very good writer. She wrote an abolitionist work years later that was clearly abolitionist. So could this have been a run-up? Maybe.
Yeah.
But again, the fact that she wasn't living there in the city at the time makes it a little harder to parse that maybe she could have been getting her work as a 17-year-old into New York journals.
We've got a comment from Moon. I can imagine that there would be some pushback on the publishing of it. Publishing if it was a full anti-slavery book.
Absolutely. And that's a good reason to maybe make your anti-hero a monster, because then at least you can give that anti-hero all the right words. He gives all the great speeches. He gives a very good speech in the book. But at the same time, in case it gets you into trouble, you can say, well, that was the monster. That wasn't me. That was the monster doing that.
So
we saw that in
a bookseller in South Carolina might feel comfortable having that book on this show, right?
It's funny you say that, because it was sold in South Carolina. And we know that because there's some ads that you can find in papers from 1819 advertising the book, and the furthest away it got from New York was South Carolina.
Okay, wow. Well, that's fascinating. I cut you off. Was there anything you wanted? Was there something you wanted to finish there?
Me?
Brian.
Oh.
Probably, but it's gone now.
Okay, sorry. Okay,
sorry.
All right, sorry. Now, Brian, your introduction to the Black Vampire also mentions that some later critics doubted this book even existed. How did you discover that D'Arcy's book from 1819 was, in fact, real?
It was those ads. It was finding advertisements for it in papers from 1819 and 1820 that confirmed for me that this is definitely for real. I wish I could say I found it in newsprint at the time. That I never found anything of the actual story all the way in newsprint. I found clips of it. There were reviews that would print pieces of the novella in their newspapers from that time, but it was the ads that was the convincer for me.
Okay.
And it was often advertised alongside Polidori's Vampire. You would see new books in The Vampire by, usually it would say by Lord Byron, The Vampire by Lord Byron, and The Black Vampire by Uriah Derick D'Arcy.
and
definitely trying to capitalize.
And they spelled vampire. Both titles spelled vampire the same way, Pyre.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, I'd like to return to the present day, one in which, racism still exists, and where a growing number of people are calling capitalism exploitative, and perhaps echoing the Haitian Revolution. America seems on the verge of its own upheaval. With all this in mind, how relevant do you think the Black Vampire is today?
That is a heavy question.
We're not, you come on the show, you're gonna get the hard stuff.
I'm gonna give you two answers, Eva.
Okay.
In this country, and it's not just this country, but especially in this country, we've never quite reconciled our past when it comes to slavery and racism. And I don't think we're going to reconcile our present until we deal with that. I think the Black Vampire shows that this is not a new problem. This is something that has been with us for a long time, and it was even getting into genre fiction when the genre fiction first came out. We were so soaked in it that it was almost unavoidable that slavery was going to make its way into a vampire story. Even if that wasn't D'Arcy's intent to tell an anti-slavery tale, he couldn't resist but use slavery as a metaphor for the point that he did want to make. Now, the second way I will answer your question is to get away from race concerns for a second and deal with AI, because lots of people, almost anyone who's a creator, is concerned about AI's ease with which it steals intellectual property and repackages it and gives it away or sells it to someone else on the cheap. That is also what D'Arcy was complaining about in the writings he did on either side of the narrative. He was complaining about the inability for creators at that time to get their work out or to make a living on their work. The people in the Knickerbocker group, that was, as you said, the early American writers that were trying to find that American voice. Almost none of them were able to make a living off of what they did because they couldn't get their stuff sold. People were buying works in Europe, bringing them over to America and then reprinting them for pennies. So why would you take a chance on a Washington Irving novel when Ivanhoe is available for a fraction of the cost because it's been stolen?
Yeah.
Very, very interesting.
And
Those are great points.
Our mutual friend Sean Rourke chimed in the chat here. Damn, that's a good point. Racism has been a subject in genre fiction for 200 years in this country. That's just put it all in context for. Well, I think all of us, Sean. This is This is
Thanks,
really,
Sean.
Yeah, appreciate you.
As I was saying that, I was trying to think to myself, was there other genre fiction that race concerns made their way into real early? And a better mind than mine will have to address that, because I couldn't think of anything right off the top of my head, but there's certainly got to be something in there.
Okay. If you're just joining us, we are speaking with Brian Forrest, host of the Toothpickings channel on YouTube. Brian also edited a brand new edition of The Black Vampyre, and it includes his notes. Brian, stay with us while we tease the final segment of our program, where we review films and TV series. And Eva, I understand you'll be reviewing a 2021 horror miniseries from Netflix.
I think Eva's muted.
Eva, you muted?
You know what? It might help if I unmuted myself, wouldn't it?
The
werewolves were a little anxious in the background, so I was trying to help out. Yes, in keeping with the dark theme of tonight's show, I will review the 2021 Netflix original miniseries Midnight Mass. And I got to tell you, there's a lot to unpack with this one.
I love that show. That is one. That might be one of my favorite pieces of vampire motion picture media. I was just in my book club the other day. We were talking about our favorite non-Dracula pieces of vampire movies, and even though that was really a miniseries, several of us, myself included, all said, "Well, can I sneak Midnight Mass in there, even though it's a miniseries?"
Well, hopefully you'll like my review of it.
Yeah. And I, for one, cannot wait to hear your verdict, Eva. Okay, Brian, back to you. We have arrived at that point where we ask our 4 vampy questions. But you already answered those last time you appeared on this show.
Yeah.
So we crafted 4 new ones.
Oh, I'm nervous.
Yeah. But you shouldn't be, because this is part of your area of expertise. All based on the 1972 classic film Blackula.
Oh,
Eva,
all right.
Yeah, Eva, would you like to begin?
Yes. Of all the vampire tropes that Blackula introduced, which is your favorite?
Although it was not the first vampire story to end with a vampire suicide, it was the first one in motion picture. It was the first movie to do it. And we have seen that a few times now. And I think the fact that they were trying to humanize their vampire gave him the reason to commit suicide out of grief. And I don't think we would have seen that. We never would have seen that in a Hammer film. We never would have seen a Christopher Lee Dracula end his own life, because he's just pure evil. He has no humanity to him. Mama Walde did. And the fact that he had lost the love of his life, please don't take this as being a pro-suicide speech.
Right.
But it allowed him to do the one thing that the police force couldn't do, which was to take himself out. They couldn't do it. And now he has nothing to live for. So he's going to do what they could not do.
Okay. Now, keeping that trope in mind, which subsequent film or TV series made the most memorable use of the vampire suicide?
The first one to come to my mind is True Blood. I would hear an argument for a different one. As there's certainly, you might be able to argue that Midnight Mass does it. I'm not. Is it suicide, or is it sort of like?
Well, Riley's, yeah. But I would like Blade 2.
Oh. There's one in my favorite vampire film, Let the Right One In. If you convince yourself that, I'm going to forget her name, the older lady.
Right, who gets bitten
Yes.
by Ellie. Right.
I want to say Bridget, but I might be remembering that name wrong. If you believe that she knows what's going to happen when those shutters are open and she says, "Open the window," then that is very much a vampire suicide.
Yeah, but you mentioned True Blood. I think it was season 2, episode 9, where the Eric Northman, the vampire, he tries to convince his sire, Godric,
Mhm.
who's probably 5,000 years old or something like that, and Godric is just ready to die. And
Yeah.
like Mama Waldy, he walks up to the top of a building and lets this rising sun burn him alive, which is quite an effective. Cinematically, it's very interesting.
Right.
But again, this is not a show. We are not advocating or romanticizing
No, God,
suicide.
no.
Okay. All right.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Call the number if you're thinking about it.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. If Blackula were to be remade today, who should direct it? We kind of discussed this before, but
Well, yeah, it should be Ryan
directly.
Coogler, but I don't know if he wants to. You know, just because he directed one of the greatest vampire movies ever doesn't mean he wants to redo another vampire movie.
Oh, come on. You think he's not been thinking about it? You know, maybe someone's whispering in his ear saying, "You can do this."
He probably hasn't
I
even
think-
thought about it. Maybe.
I know Tarantino loves that movie. He's probably considered it,
I'm
but
not a
he won't do
Tarantino
it either.
fan.
He's not going to do that either. But I don't know who the right director is. It might be someone I don't even know. I know that when they have batted around the idea of it being remade lately, the name that has been tossed around is someone who's done more horror comedy, which unfortunately, because of the name and because Blackula occupies the space in our brains as being sort of a joke, especially for those who haven't seen it, it might get made as a horror comedy instead of a straight horror. So it might end up that way. But if I had to throw a dart and pick somebody, I would say Nia DaCosta should probably be the one to direct it.
Yeah.
Someone in the
Okay,
chat said
all right.
Spike Lee.
Yeah.
I could see. Well, Spike Lee did remake. He already remade Ganja and Hess.
Mhm.
So I think he picked his 1972 Black Vampire movie to remake. But you never know.
Okay.
Maybe he wants another run at it.
All right. And which actors should star in a remake of Blackula?
You asked me this last time, and I had terrible answers.
Okay. Well, we're giving you a 2nd chance.
I'll repeat what I said. I would be fascinated to see someone not try to out William Marshall,
Mhm.
not try to go Shakespearean with it, but instead actually play Mama Walde as an African instead of a Shakespearean. That I think would be a really powerful way to go if you can get someone with that kind of gravitas. You still got to have, for a role like that, you still have to have a Byronic vampire. They have to have a commanding presence. They have to have a really intense stare. Probably helps if they're tall. Probably helps if they have a deep voice for that kind of vampire. Who that would be? It might not be a name that we even know yet.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, and I'm probably thinking, I don't know his name, but he's in Black Panther. He's the bad cousin.
The Michael B. Jordan?
Was that Michael B. Jordan?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that would
Yeah.
be Michael B. Jordan. Okay, well he's not going to play 3 vampires.
For the right amount of money, you never know. I mean, you know.
Do y'all remember Regine Page, or I'm probably saying it wrong, maybe Regine Page, from the romantic period TV series that was on Bridgerton?
Okay, right.
A few years
Yeah.
back. He was the prince or the duke. He was one of the royal members.
Yeah.
I could see him in that role.
I guess I could too. Yeah. Well, so much to thought. Anybody in chat want to chime in with their own recommendations for who should play Mama Walde in the revamped Blackula? Revamped.
I'd love to hear other people's ideas. I'm almost afraid to get too attached to a name.
Somebody said Keith David.
Oh, Keith David. Well, that's an interesting casting choice, Sean.
Yeah. All right. Very cool.
Yeah, maybe so.
Was there anything about the Black Vampyre that we haven't talked about, Brian, that you would like to add?
I think we covered it pretty well. I'll give you one tidbit. For those Hamilton fans out there, a lot of the work of Uriah Derick D'Arcy appeared in the newspaper that Alexander Hamilton founded, the Evening Post. In fact, most of his stuff appeared in there. I'll say this. Of the stuff that I found that would be original research, I think the two most interesting things I found are as follows. The first is that speech that I talked about the prince giving. It ends with a very specific phrase. And knowing the origin of that phrase is what helped me convince me that this was, definitely intended to be anti-slavery, because that phrase that phrase was borrowed from an abolitionist lawyer who had defended clients who were seeking their freedom. And it was used a lot by that lawyer. And it later became a phrase that even Frederick Douglass would use, and it appeared in Harriet Beecher Stowe's work years later. So the fact that that phrase appears in the speech tells me that Uriah Derick D'Arcy was not doing pro-slavery wish fulfillment. He was definitely on the side of the abolitionist forces, even if he maybe was a little uneven in his presentation of it. The other thing that I thought was really interesting, and anyone who is curious about the Black Vampyre or might be researching it would find this interesting. There's 4 poems that I found by Uriah Derick D'Arcy that I reprinted in the back of the book. And one of them, I think, is by Uriah Derick D'Arcy. It is credited to Goliath Farsi. Could be Uriah Derick D'Arcy playing with his own name. Could be somebody making fun of Uriah Derick D'Arcy. Either way, Uriah Derick D'Arcy is name-checked in that poem, as are other people who have been bandied about as candidates for being the actual identity of Uriah Derick D'Arcy. So there's a lot going on in that poem. And because that poem also deals with African Americans, I think that someone who is trying to do a critical analysis and learn what D'Arcy's intents were with his novella would be well served by studying that poem as well.
Interesting. All right. Well, Brian Forrest, thank you so much again.
Thanks for having me back,
for joining us.
Yeah. Oh, you were great. You're always a great guest, and you are welcome anytime.
It's fun. You guys ask hard questions. You make me a little nervous when you start asking me questions about like how to cast Blackula. I got to prepare for those better.
Next
time I'm going to be ready.
Where can we learn more about you, your books, toothpickings?
Any events you have,
Yeah.
I hope to present at the Children of the Night conference, which is, it's held in Brasov, but it's an online conference. Anybody can watch it for free. If you are interested in vampires, especially on an academic or a scholarly level, there's great presentations every year. Sean, who was posting some comments, gave a really good one last year that I found fascinating, and I always learn a lot at those. But I am on YouTube, Toothpickings on YouTube, on Medium, on Blue Sky, Facebook. The book is, right now, it's only available in print on Amazon. That's the only place it's currently available. It's not available in a digital version right now. Someday it perhaps will be. But that's where you find me, and say hello. I hope to start posting more videos on YouTube again eventually. I have to finish a William Crane documentary, the director of Blackula. And I always get asked, how is that coming? And now I can say the audio mix is done. I just have to finish the captions, and then I will finally be sending it off to festivals next month.
Oh,
we've been there. We've been there. How's the second book coming?
Oh, I know.
It's coming. A month later. How's the second book coming?
Coming.
fascinating.
I need to have a better answer prepared. Like, just say, it's done. It's done. I'm just
It'll be
waiting.
done when it's done, damn it.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I'm just waiting for the market to be ready for it. You know.
That's a good one. I'm going to use that.
Well, thanks so much for being on the
Thank
show,
you,
Brian.
Brian.
Thank you.
We really appreciate the work that you've done, especially on this new book, the new reissue, if you
Yeah.
will. Your presentation of the Black Vampyre is just outstanding, and
Yeah.
Thank
all
you.
the best. Yeah, all
This
the
one
best for the
tickled
next
us. This one really
Yeah.
tickled us. We were like, oh my gosh, this is cool.
Love it. And good luck on your next book tour, too.
Thank
Oh,
you.
yes.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All
We'll
right.
talk to
Have a
you
good day.
soon. Bye.
Well,
I
Eva, that was fun.
I love
Yeah.
having him on.
He's great. Yeah,
He
fantastic
is
guy.
always so much fun. And
Yeah.
we did grill him. We grilled him pretty good.
We grilled him hard. Yeah.
I think it was that we genuinely enjoyed. I did. I mean, I got the book and I was like, oh my God, Dan, you're gonna love this. You're gonna love this. And it was fascinating. And
It
we
really was.
we really have fun with stuff like that.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And we learn. This is the great thing. Every show we learn something new. Whether it's a new trope or just a new little bit of history that we haven't heard before. So that's that's one of the benefits of hosting your own YouTube show on YouTube and Facebook. All right. Before we get into tonight's review, Eva and I would like to tell you about our next episode of Vamp Chat. We will be joined by a New York Times best-selling author of horror novels, most recently Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. He's also written other hit novels such as The Final Girl Support Group and How to Sell a Haunted House.
Yes, he is Grady Hendrix, and we'll talk to him about a book that's become one of my favorites, The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. And we will speak with author Grady Hendrix on Wednesday, September 9th at 7 p.m. Eastern on Facebook and YouTube Live.
This will be another fun one.
I cannot wait for this one. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just, you should go ahead and show that book cover again.
Yep.
Isn't that like the greatest book cover, at least in the vampire genre, that's ever been out there? I think that's just an amazing piece of art. The book is fantastic. I'm rereading it right now, and I know it's going to be a fun interview.
I will tell you, okay, so how I even learned about Grady is my book was in Joseph Beth's Booksellers. And I was in there and I was just kind of perusing. It was up, it was on the table. And like I turned and this book cover caught my eye. And I didn't even read it, but the book cover just caught my eye. And then I read it and I was like, I've got to know about this. Mm-hmm. And so I started looking and I asked Grady to be on season 3, I guess. And he couldn't, he was too busy. And so about a month ago, I was like, I'll see if he'll come on now. And lo and behold, he was like, sure, I'd love to. So it was the book cover. It was absolutely 100% the book cover that got it. So my attention.
Absolutely. So this is going to be a fun interview with one of our favorite authors, one who is a master of blending horror and humor. Okay, it is time to share what vampire video content we've been consuming. And Eva, you've been rewatching the 2021 Netflix series Midnight Mass.
Yes, Dan, this actually makes the 4th time I've watched the series. It is one of my favorites, but it's because it's so much more than vampires.
Wow, 4 times. That's really a commitment. You must really love this series.
I really, really do. And not for what you'd think at all. Okay, so as we've said, Midnight Mass is an original Netflix miniseries that aired in 2021. Its creator, Mike Flanagan, the founder of Red Room Pictures, directed, wrote, and edited it, as he's done with all of his films, which include Oculus, Hush, Dr. Sleep, and a slew of others. Midnight Mass, however, is widely considered his best work yet, and in my opinion, for good reason. All right, before I begin, if anyone hasn't seen this series and is dying to watch it and be surprised, turn off the podcast now. I've thought long and hard about this, and I'm going to try, but I don't think I can get into the depth of this series without possibly divulging a few spoilers. So be warned. It's totally worth watching, even with the spoilers. But I don't want any emails saying I ruined it for somebody and they're mad now and all that stuff.
All right. Now, this is against my better advice, but if you have to turn off this podcast episode, be sure to check out our other episodes, such as the one where we interviewed Brian Forrest the first time about Blackula, the film from 1972. Now, we will drop a link in the description. Do we have a link for that we can show, Eva?
No, we don't. I'll
Okay.
pop it up.
Okay. All right.
We're still learning.
Okay.
I'm still learning, but yes, definitely do that. Check out that back episode. Okay, here we go. So the story starts off with a car accident. All right. Riley Flynn is drunk and sitting on the curb. He's just been in a car accident and he's killed a young girl. He watches her literally die in front of him as they try to resuscitate her. And he, being drunk, barely has a scratch on him. And for this, he goes to prison for 4 years. He gets out of prison and he goes home to Crockett Island, which is an isolated fishing community that's declining vastly in population, mainly due to an oil spill. The fish just, they died off. The community also has some deep-seated local divisions. I'm talking, religious, racial, socioeconomical, many others. Now, the first 2 episodes, okay, they may seem a little slow, but they introduce you to the characters on the island. And this is incredibly important to the story. Here's some of the major ones. So you have Riley, played by Zach Gilford. He's the disgraced son returning home. You have Erin Green, played by Kate Siegel. She's the wild girl growing up who left the island because she couldn't stand it there any longer. She wanted to see the world. And now she's back for familiar roots and she's pregnant. You have Annie Flynn, played by Kristen Lehman, who, while I don't like this character, I do love the character. I love her portrayal of it. Riley, I'm sorry. This is Kristen Lehman, Riley's mother. I actually like her character too. She's Riley's mother, and she's overjoyed that her son is finally home and is playing the family buffer between Riley and his father, Warren. Let me say that, the Flynns and a large population of residents on the island are devout Catholics. And this is another important note to keep in mind. Then you have Bev King, and this is the character that I love to hate. She helps run the church, and she is that over-the-top person with a holier-than-thou personality. And a lot of times, it's she'll say something and they'll be like, yes, Bev, and then they always have that little, they're like, yes, Bev, and then they have that little comment under their breath about her. But she kind of runs ramshot over the island. Then there's Sheriff Hassan. He's a Muslim, and he moved to the island with his son Ali after his wife died. And he moved there because the precinct he was in didn't really accept him because of his faith. So in a way, he's kind of running to hide. But he's hidden on this island. He's the only Muslim, and he's with a bunch of devout Catholics. So, I don't know. You have Dr. Sarah Gunning, the resident island doctor, who is a lesbian. She not only cares for everybody on the island, but she also cares for her mother, Mildred, who broke her hip, is aging with dementia. There's the town drunk, Joe, played by Robert Longstreet, who in a drunken fit one night decided to shoot his gun. And it went into the back of a little girl, Lisa, and it paralyzed her from the waist down. Now, what you have to understand is Crockett Island, being such a small island, there are no cars. They get to the island by ferry. There's no paved roads. Like, everything's dirt. So Lisa has a very, very hard time getting around in the wheelchair. And finally, you have Father Paul. And that's played by Hamish Linklater, he's the visiting priest who's covering for their ailing longtime priest, Monsignor John Michael Pruitt. See, the father John Michael Pruitt, he's old and he's ailing. He's got dementia, and the parish raised enough money to send the Monsignor to Jerusalem to walk in the steps of Christ before he died. And it was a very, very sweet thing for them to do. So there are a lot more characters, but those are primarily the main characters. So in summary, what you have is this microcosm on this island that it's rich and diverse. And the first 2 episodes, they show you that everyone except for 2 people, and they survive, they have a dual nature. They show their good side and their bad side.
Okay, fascinating. So any hints as to about the 2 people, who they may be?
I'm going to let you figure out who it is, but I'll give you a hint. They're the 2 people who are who they are the entire time.
Okay. All right, I'll go with that. Okay, now I have a game to go along with watching this now. Okay.
All right, so now is where my review gets tricky and to not give too much away, okay? So Father Paul rolls into town. He's covering for Father Pruitt, and he fits into the community basically seamlessly. And things start happening. Miracles start happening. And suddenly his congregation begins to grow. But at the same time, there's some strange things that begin to happen, like hundreds of dead, bloodless cats wash onto shore. People start seeing strange things out their window. And Father Paul begins to get sick and change. So that's where I'm going to stop the synopsis. I know I didn't give you a lot to go on, but I promise you'll thank me.
Okay, definitely not a lot, but enough to completely intrigue me, Eva. So give me some stats on this.
Okay, I know how you love your stats, so I got them. 87% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes.
Rotten Tomatoes.
Rotten Tomatoes. No, 87%. That's a really good score. 80% on the audience score, and it got a 79% on the popcorn meter.
Yeah, these are very respectable scores.
You know what? They are, and they're deserved. Okay, so I think what draws me to this series, and you know what? If Brian is still on, I'm going to pull him. Let's see. Is he still listening? Maybe Brian?
I am still here. Yes.
Okay. All right. So I want you being a fan of this show and not giving anything away. I don't think I gave away too much. Okay. I think what draws me to this series is not that there's a vampire in it. Honestly, the vampire is kind of a minor character. What draws me is the characters. Their interactions with each other, their dark sides, their blind faith, even in the face of evidence. And ultimately, I think the other thing that draws me in is the conversations that this movie sparks when you're done watching it. I mean, Crockett Island and the supernatural elements are completely made up, but the series draws heavily from the creator's real life. So Flanagan was raised Roman Catholic and served as an altar boy. The tight-knit, isolated parish dynamics match his very early experiences. The main character, Riley Flynn, reflects Flanagan's own past struggles with alcohol and his personal journey through recovery and sobriety. The show mirrors Flanagan's personal questioning of religious dogma, faith, guilt, and morality. And he says this, that he wrote it, he edited it, he directed it. He states this is where this movie came from. That's a lot to consider in a movie. Brian, would you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, this is, even though we jokingly say this is the best vampire story Stephen King never actually wrote, it is a very personal, and you can tell. I mean, I'm making a joke about being a Stephen King story, but Stephen King stories happen to have a lot of personal material in them.
Yeah.
As anyone who's read a biography on him knows. And I think that is why Midnight Mass is so powerful.
Would you also say it's the conversation that it sparks once you're finished?
For me, it wasn't.
Okay.
I haven't had many conversations about it, to be honest. So I applaud and I recognize that is
Maybe
No,
conversation thoughts in your head.
this is one of the first conversations I've had about it that was beyond how awesome was that show? That was awesome, great, it was fantastic. Yeah, I'm going to watch that again.
Leave it to us to tear it apart.
But I think the fact that it was able to be a vampire story that was not it was not romantic, it was not filled with beauty, it did not make you want to be a vampire in any way. I
Made you not want to live on
appreciated
Crockett
that.
Island too.
No. I appreciated that. I appreciate stories about monsters that can be both sympathetic but also make you not want to be that thing.
Yeah.
And that is very true in Midnight Mass.
Yeah.
Well, here on Vamp Chat, we have a rating system of 20 drops of blood, with 20 being the highest. Eva, how much blood will you spill for Midnight Mass?
I thought about this. This series explores the dangers of religious fanaticism, the corrupting nature of self-righteousness, how human beings project their deepest fears of death and guilt onto faith. It promotes thought and discussion, and it makes you wonder about yourself and the people you interact with and how you interact with those around you. Maybe to me, a lot more than to Brian. It was a cool movie. I will say, the first time I watched it, now mind you, I've watched it 4 times now. But the first time I watched it, I was like, damn, that's a good show. And I was like you, Brian. I was like, that was a really, really good show. Then I made the mistake. Well, not the mistake, but I watched it a second time. And then I watched it a third time. And now I've watched it a 4th time. So I have been able to go in and see all those little nuances, and my brain started turning. And now I'm just like, wow, this is one freaking deep series. So yeah.
Eva, I'm curious, what did you catch in your later viewings that maybe you glossed over the first time?
So oh God, let me think here. Jeez. The blind faith, the true blind faith, the whole concept of the blood is the life. See, I'm gonna give it away. I can't. I don't want to give it away. In the cave. Okay, what I'm going to talk about is in episode 3, so I don't think I'm giving too much away. But in the cave, where he first meets the vampire, and in his demented state thinks Angel. Just that whole it's neat, but then taking it into the Catholicism and the true sacrament, and then also the father's need to bring all that back to his congregation that he loved so much. And just kind of he thought he was doing the right thing. He thought he was doing good. He thought, here's the angel, and I'm bringing the angel back to this small community. And I did catch something that I didn't catch the first time, and that was in one of the sermons. He is talking about, it's one of the earlier sermons, he is talking about the fisherman and Jesus and the parable. And I was like, I did not catch that the first time, really catch it. So there were a lot of little nuances. I can't give too much away.
That's great.
There were a lot of nuances that I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. And I didn't catch that the first time. And I just saw deeper into it. And what was really interesting to me was getting to understand the arcs of the characters. Joe, for instance, his arc of the forgiveness and being released and coming out of the alcoholism. Bev's arc, which actually goes deeper into just craziness. And just the fact that they would cover up things in the entrance of Faith. So, and there was also a nod to Jonestown in there. So,
Oh, sure, yes.
you know,
Yeah.
that's
Hard to miss.
You know, that's So it's a deep. It's good. It's great. But you know, if you watch it 4 times, you're gonna go down the rabbit hole.
Mhm.
So,
Let's spill some blood, shall we?
I'm sorry, Dan. You insist I've got to watch it.
Yes, I will. I promise.
So I'm going to give it. I'm going to give it a very respectable 18 drops of blood.
That's good. That's a really very solid recommendation, actually.
You know, yeah, I don't know why I wouldn't give it 20, but I'm going to give it 18. What would you give it, Brian?
Oh, I give it a strong 18.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, is it the best TV series I've ever seen with vampires? It's neck and neck with the new Lestat, which I liked a lot.
I've not seen it. There's a whole story behind that.
That's fine. You know, the Lestat one is so recent that it's hard to get enough distance from it. But yeah, I think a strong 18 drops, and that's I think the 2 down from 20 is only because 20 I think you reserve for the Sinners of the Worlds and the 1922 Nosferatus of the world, and I don't think that's a slight at all.
You know, the ending was rough for me. It was
like hard to watch, or it took something away from you.
No, it didn't take anything away from me. It was a rough ending. It was, you know, it's not a pretty story. It's really not a pretty story.
Not at all.
So
it is not a feel good tale at all.
No. So
and
I think the only
maybe vampire story shouldn't be.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I'm gonna knock it down, because if I'm looking at drops of blood and this is Vamp Chat, the vampire being such a minor character, kinda, is gonna knock it down too. I think that's fair.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So knock it down 2, did you say? So are we at 16?
No. Knock it from 20. Knock it from 20.
Gotcha.
You know, I think I gave What We Do in the Shadows 19.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah. But this is I mean, it's, you know, one's a comedy, one's not a comedy, but they're both, you know, it's a damn good series for anybody.
What's the chat saying? What are they having to say? How many drops is the chat giving?
Let's
Midnight
see.
Mass?
The chat, oh my God, watch Lestat. 18 nice. 18 nice.
Okay.
So yeah.
Do we have time for me to tell my embarrassing story about Midnight Mass?
Oh, absolutely.
Please. Yes.
So I'm going to turn my camera on for this. I understood, maybe falsely, that Midnight Mass, the TV series, was based on a book or a short story. And I wanted to read it because I liked the series so much. So I found on Audible or Spotify, I found the audiobook version. And like, all right, let's get down, let's read this. And there's a prologue, and the prologue is told as a memory. And the thing I remember the most is the priest. I'm like, oh, all right. So somebody survived and is reflecting on this time. Okay, that different from the TV series, but that's okay. Chapter 1, page 1, they're fucking right off the bat. Wow, that's a strong start, I think to myself. Not at all like the TV series, but okay, maybe you got to get your readers in somehow. Let's see what happens in chapter 2. Chapter 2, we're fucking again. And at that point I said, is it possible that this is not the same Midnight Mass TV series with the priest? And it wasn't. It was a hardcore erotica with a priest, not a vampire priest.
Oh, brilliant. I have to watch out for that one.
When Google goes wrong.
Yeah. Right? Cautionary
that
tale.
is awesome. That is awesome.
You know, I wasn't going to give up initially because there's plenty of vampire erotica out there, and who knows how Midnight Mass got started, but it was not the same story.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall for that one.
Oh yeah. Appreciate you sharing that. That's
Oh my God. That is hilarious. Well, thank you, Brian, again for weighing in.
Absolutely.
We'll
Thanks
see
for
you again.
let me stick around and tell that story.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. We'll talk to you again soon.
Oh, that is so awesome. That's like when you dial the wrong number and you get the instead of 1-800 or 1888 or something, you dial 1-800 and all of a sudden you're like, whoa,
Yep.
this isn't where I dial.
That's right.
All right. So, as you can tell, this is going to be an amazing season. And we have another surprise too, in addition to the Grady Hendrix.
Mhm.
So, that will be announced here in a few weeks. So, follow us on Facebook and Instagram.
Or you can go to vampchatwithdanandeva.com and leave us your email address to get breaking Vamp Chat news early. Well, sounds like a great service. I would sign up for that, wouldn't you?
I would.
Yeah,
We got
all
lots of
right.
cool stuff.
We can do something with Patreon too once we get a little more comfortable with all this, this technology and stuff. Well, Eva, have we reached that point in the evening?
I believe we have, Dan.
All right, children of the night, we wish you safe dreams.
Just keep an eye out for those creatures of the night.
And if you can't sleep, we have vampire books to recommend. No, really? Yeah.
Shocker!
Yes, right. Be sure to sink your teeth into Eva's latest novel, A Hellish Fury, which is the sequel to A Fury.
Or this might be the perfect night to devour Dan's latest novel, Sins of the Sire, the sequel to Fiona's Guardians.
And with that,
We bid you good night.
night. Good night, Eva.